Pope Francis accepts the resignation of Archbishop of Paris for having a relationship with a woman. Pope Francis has accepted the resignation of Archbishop of Paris, Michel Aupetit, I hope I said it right, who placed his position at the pontiff's disposal after the French press revealed that he had a relationship with a woman. Oh my God, a woman? In 2012. Welcome to Radio Labio's English program, where I share the most interesting notes of the day that you may not have had time to catch up on. I'm Juan Andres. I podcast in English and Spanish to ensure that all Latinos can have access to our programs regardless of what language they speak, and thanks for listening. Aupetit announced last Friday that he had placed his position at the disposal of Francisco after denying the information published by the weekly Le Point, according to which he had an affair with, of all things, a woman, but acknowledging an ambiguous relationship, according to the diocese, which led him to withdraw so as not to harm the institution. God, no. A woman harmed the institution? Oh my God. The painful events of last week, about which I have already spoken about, led me to put my mission in the hands of the Pope to preserve the diocese from the division that always caused suspicion and mistrust, said the former Archbishop about the pontiff's decision. Aupetit, who said goodbye to the heavy burden of the Diocese of Paris, trying to fulfill it with fervor and dedication, said that he had a deeply peaceful heart, after acknowledging that he had been very concerned about the attacks of which he assured has been an object. Richard Sipe of Johns Hopkins University says that roughly half of all priests are sexually active at any given point. 20% to 23% in long-term heterosexual relationships. So wait a minute. If half are involved in sexually active activity and only 20 to 23% are in heterosexual relationships, that means that 27% are involved in homosexual relationships. 6% to 8% in experimental dating. Don't ask me what that is. I don't have a clue. Experimental dating. According to the Catholic Church's Code of Canon Law, celibacy is a special gift of God, which allows practitioners to follow more closely the example of Christ, who was chaste. Another reason is that when a priest enters into service to God, the church becomes his highest calling. Now, I've read up on the church. Okay, I went to Catholic school. I've read up on the church and its history. I'm not by far an authority, but I've read enough to know that certain things don't make any sense. Because in the first 1,000 years, the priest could get married. And then all of a sudden it had to stop. I've read where it says that they stopped it because the women that they were marrying they wanted the right to own the property and the money and the gold and whatever the little church had, and it wasn't in the best interest of the church. That's one version. I'm going to read you the version that's on the note that I found. But that's one of the ones I've read throughout history that dumbfounded me. I mean, how could you all of a sudden, after 1,000 years, prohibit the priest be married, and look at all the crazy things that are happening today, and it could have been avoided. You can't reach an agreement with these people that they get married with, that they signed an agreement that everything belongs to the church and let's move on. And then there's a question of whether Christ was chaste or not. There's all kinds of viewpoints on the matter. Some of the Jewish writings, and Christ was a Jew, says that he was involved in a relationship with Mary Magdalene and that he had a child. Who knows? Who knows? But the church says he was chaste. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the church was 1,000 years old before it definitely took a stand in favor of celibacy in the 12th century. Now remember, our calendar started with the birth of Christ. So this is 1,200 years after the birth of Christ that they decided to say, whoa, 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 whoa. Stop it. That's it. No more coochie-coochie legally. Legally, no more coochie-coochie. You could do the coochie-coochie, I guess, as long as we don't hear about it here in the Vatican. And if we hear about it, we'll sort of, I don't know, we'll shove it under the rug. We'll keep it quiet, okay? Just don't make any noise about it. Because the church knows, come on. For thousands of years it's known. So anyway, this happened in the 12th century at the Second Lantern Council in the year 1139. 1,200 years after Christ had died, they decided to stop it formally. When a rule at that time, 1000 at the Second Lateran Council, I mispronounced it the first time, they came up with a rule that approved forbidding priests to marry. By the way, a number of popes had offspring. I don't know if you know about that. Oh yes, popes were coochie-coochie, and they had babies, but everything was quiet. Anyway, the Second Lateran Council in 1139 made the promise to remain celibate a prerequisite to ordination, abolishing the married priesthood in the church. Abolishing it. Okay? Now, this is 1,200 years later. And look at the mess we're in now. All right? And you know something? There are married priests in the Catholic Church right now. Today. There are dozens that are married. They're accepted into the church. Some of them Anglican priests that come already married that have to be approved. They bring their wife, but they keep it quiet. You haven't heard about it, right? Shh. I heard about it because I worked at the Archdiocese, the Catholic Archdiocese of the city where I live in, and it's common knowledge. Come on. I mean, the employees talk and they giggle and they laugh at lunch, and they talk about the history of the church, and that doesn't mean we're not Catholic. It means we're human, and we like the gossip. And in that gossip, truth comes out. So this is a very controversial issue, and some very faithful Catholics that follow the book by the rule, that don't want to look at anything other than what the book says, will probably be a little uncomfortable with this program. But hey, the truth is the truth, you know, and I respect everyone and their viewpoint. And I hope you respect the information I'm offering, because something has to be done about the issue of these men, because that's what they are. They're human beings. They're men. They have needs. And sex is a need, just like eating and breathing and going to the bathroom. You need it. I mean, after a period of time, you can only hold out for so long, and then you need it. And then it doesn't even talk about how many priests are pleasuring themselves. Poor guy. You know something? I respect and admire the priesthood because it takes a special kind of human being to want to tackle this immense, immense responsibility and sacrifice that they're making. I find it admirable. And there are certain priests that are asexual. I don't know if you know what asexual means. All right. Heterosexual means you like having sex with a woman. Bisexual means that you don't have you're fine whether it's male or female. Okay. And homosexual means that you'd rather have sex with a man. Asexual means that you'd rather not have sex with anybody. In other words, sex is not an issue with you. It's not important to you. And those are the people that thrive in the church. And they make superb priests. But we don't identify that, see? We don't identify it. We just talk about, roundabout, why some do and some don't, and some don't have any difficulty sacrificing, and others can't. They have to satisfy the need. I suppose that if we have a shortage, even though we've managed to resolve some of the shortages we've had of priests by having deacons in the church. You know, I remember when I was a young kid, we didn't have any deacons. Yeah, it was one here and one there, but not like today where deacons are all part of the church. And by the way, the clergy were the teachers. That's changed. The clergy is no longer teaching in the majority of Catholic schools now. It's lay people. That's excellent, by the way. I don't have a problem with that. It sure solved the problem of these issues that the church has by putting lay people in there. Why? Because they can have relationships and meet their needs and don't need to get involved with the students. So I think that was excellent. But my issue is, if we're already accepting priests from the Anglican religion that are married, what's the issue with opening it up when it was originally for 1,200 years part of the church? You deal with it with documentation, and the priest has to sign. You don't own squat, okay? I could understand back then. Most people didn't know how to read and write, including the priests. Some of them were, but some of those country priests in little chapels, they didn't know how to read and write. Or were very limited in their vocabulary and their writing. It's understandable. Maybe a kindergarten or third or fourth or fifth grade education at most compared to today. But that was incredibly educated back then, but still at the level of a fourth or fifth grader. But today, with everybody educated, you understand. It's not yours anymore. So the reason why they created this monstrous failure of a law that's caused nothing but problems for everybody of celibacy, make it a choice. Be pro-choice. I'm not talking about abortion. That's another issue. I'm talking about celibacy. Make it pro-choice. You can choose to be celibate. You don't have to be. You want to get married? Fine. All right, we want to make sure you don't bring a crazy woman in here. We want to make sure that she meets certain criteria. And that we do a background check. And we want decent people. Yeah, but that could be addressed. It's better than covering up child molestation. That's horrible. And a shame, and difficult for all of us Catholics. You think I liked it when we went through that? It was horrible. I was working at the Archdiocese. The pain I went through, I almost lost my faith. Especially when the cover-up that I was looking at every day when I went to work. It was horrible. It took me. By the way, I only lasted there a certain period of time. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. They wanted to promote me and make me, allow me to be in charge of a full department. They don't call them departments, okay? They call them ministries, or I don't remember anymore. This was a while back. So anyway, they wanted to promote me. And I sat down with my boss. I said, look, I got hired. I've already evaluated the situation. I'm going to leave working for the Archdiocese in the same position you hired me. I had a title. I had a desk. I was an executive. They wanted me to be the head of a department. And I said no, because I could see that what was going on, my personality didn't fit. Number one, I don't know, when I see wrongdoing, I just get upset. I can't look the other way. That's just my nature. Ever since I was a kid, I always get in trouble because I'll denounce it if I see it. I've lost jobs over that. I lost a very, very high-paying job when I was in my early 30s, late 20s, because I had to denounce my boss who was trying to have a relationship with an employee's wife. So he'd route him out of town during the week so he could drive over to the guy's house when he sends him out of town and have a relationship with a woman. And I found out. And I went to his boss and told him, and all hell broke loose. The guy got fired, and I got fired too for being, I felt good, by the way. I felt it was the right thing to do, and I don't regret it. I think it was extremely, extremely satisfying because no matter how much, and I lost a good paying job at a time where I couldn't afford it, but I survived it, and I came back better than ever. The Lord was opening doors for me that I didn't even know existed. And I look at it as the Lord saying, you did the right thing. Here are some opportunities. I hope you recognize them and you take advantage of them. And I walked through those doors and I was very successful. And I thank you, Lord, for that. But that's what would have happened at the Archdiocese when I was there. I couldn't stay there because the more I saw is the less I liked. And then I really realized, the true faith, the true religion happens at the church level with the priest and the mass and the involvement in the community and the communion. And I don't mean communion because you have to put the host on your tongue. That's communion, yes, but also communing, being with a community, communing together and feeling the energy and the love and the respect for one another and praising the Lord is a beautiful experience. And that's where the strength of the religion really lies. The minute you get above that, it's all politics. It's all politics, and they're protecting money, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. And most people at the church level know that. I mean, they didn't live the experience like I did at the Archdiocese, but they feel it. They feel the difference. Anyway, to make a long story short, I'm off the subject now. We're talking about the importance of celibacy, and I don't think that it's important anymore. I think it should be pro-choice, and that they should, of course, who am I? I'm just one person with a mouth giving my opinion. But it sure would make sense that it would solve a lot of problems for the church. And maybe it's not politically correct, and maybe the Pope is sort of, trying to deal with this. You have 1,000 years of habits and people and ideas, and you're trying to navigate the church through all the internal politics of the Vatican. If you think there were politics at the archdiocese level, oh my God, I could just imagine the monstrous amount of politics, worldwide politics, that this poor man has to face. I respect them. I respect them. But anyway, those are my 2 cents about this issue. I'm Juan Andres. You can find us on more than 60 sites on the internet where you can listen to our podcast. Just ask Google, Radio Labio, and bingo will pop up. On my behalf, as well as my colleague Yvonne Encinas and our manager and fellow on-air personality, Francisco Maldonado, thanks, and see you next time.